Better late than May. Today, I'm Press B to cancel. Welcome to another episode of Press B to cancel, and GP's bebopping like he could hear the intro, but he couldn't. I'm your host this week, Sick Jake, but joined, never alone. No, I'm joined by two of my good friends. Wulff, how you been?
I have been well, thank you. I'm excited to get back to this.
Yeah, me too. And GP, how are you doing today?
I am doing very, very well. So thrilled to be here. And real quick, before we go further, I want to break in because I can't wait. I'm too excited. We will be including two new hosts in the future as well. And I was thinking maybe we should have a
Oh,
giveaway
you mean
where if
Chardmonk and Sinistar 77?
oh yeah. All right, so no giveaway. No
Right.
giveaway, guys. But Chard
Sorry,
and Sinistar are gonna be joining us, and I'm thrilled.
my mistake.
No,
It's
no,
okay.
that was wonderful.
We don't need that
Wonderful.
content. No, we are Press B to cancel, and of course we were on a hiatus for a little while, just a few short weeks, nothing. Okay, a couple months, But the birds are chirping, the rainy weather is hitting us, but winter's long gone. So what better time than
gonna
do
be
Game of the
May.
Year? Yeah, end of May. Let's do Game of the Year of 2021. We're either late or early. It doesn't really matter. We're going to do Game of the Year, but we're going to do it with our rules. So our rules say it's the game that you played in 2021. Whether it's retro, modern, doesn't matter. Released 3 years ago, who cares? Just the game that you played that made an impact for you. So we've done this for the last couple of years, and I love doing this. I think we have a unique take on Game of the Year that others don't. So I guess we'll get started. GP, you wanted to start first, I believe, right?
Yes, very excited for my Game of the Year. I don't think a lot of people are going to like me saying this, but this is the truth. It's Final Fantasy 1, but it's the Pixel Remaster.
Was that
Okay.
this year?
Yeah, no, it was last year.
No, that was last year.
Oh,
Are we
okay.
acting
I
like
thought it
this
was
is
this year.
recorded?
That was 2021.
Yeah.
He's
So
good.
Final Fantasy 6 Pixel Remaster came out this year, and I think 5 was either January or December last. But Final Fantasy 1 definitely summer of 2021. But here's the thing. Anybody who's familiar with our past recordings or anything I've ever said about Final Fantasy ever knows I'm a huge fan of Final Fantasy 4 and of course 6. We've had, brackets, we've talked about this a lot. So I'm not going to rehash all of that, but I will say when it comes to the Pixel remasters, 4 was okay. I think there's better versions of 4. 6 was as great as 6 always is. They were great. They didn't necessarily make me want to go back and play the originals again or immediately restart a new file, except for Final Fantasy 1. Now, full disclosure, I did not play Final Fantasy 2. I was already a fan of 3 on the NES. I love the retro version, and the Pixel Remaster was good. 5 was a solid entry as well. But 1, for my money, was the best, and here's why. And I'm talking a lot. Do you guys want to say anything before I go off on my tangent?
No, we're gonna.
No.
Can you do one thing? Can you tilt your camera a little bit up?
No.
For those listening to on the audio, we are also doing recordings on YouTube regularly now, but we'll talk about that later.
Is that better? Is that
A
better?
little bit more?
Is that okay? A little bit more? You don't want any of the things in the background, huh?
No. Okay.
No neck.
Maybe
There we
too
go.
high. Maybe
Too high? Okay. How about I just fixed my fucking posture? Is that better? No. Who knows? Anyways.
That's fine.
It'll
We'll
be
keep it
fine.
like that. A
Okay,
little bit lower.
yeah, okay.
A+ content, guys.
A little bit
You would-
lower.
You would think we didn't spend 45 minutes rehearsing this before.
I know. Well, like I said, we're rusty doing this, so
Is
there's a
this
bit of
okay?
setup
I'll just-
involved.
I'll
Perfect. That's
maintain
good enough.
posture.
Don't worry
Is this
about it.
okay?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So
We
anyway,
got most of your hair in. That's the important part, GP. We're
it's
good.
mostly hair, yes. 6'5" with the hair, with the coif. Okay, so anyway, Final Fantasy 1. I never really enjoyed the NES. I had nostalgia for it in watching other people play it. I always appreciated and had respect for what Final Fantasy 1 accomplished and allowing us to have sequels and setting up the franchise like it had. But I was never into it myself. So I played Final Fantasy 1, the Pixel Remaster, which if you haven't played them, if you're a Final Fantasy fan, I recommend it. I know Chard Monk might not agree. But there's a lot of great updates, not just the pixels or the aesthetics of it. the translation, the music has gotten a huge upgrade. The way they've remastered the music, and anyway, just all the way across the board, this is a wonderful tune-up for Final Fantasy One. I've restarted that game and played through it a number of times. Not only that, I started looking into ROM hacks and going back and playing the original version of the NES Final Fantasy One, and I completely love this game now. And that is thanks to the Pixel remaster. So, Game of the Year
So you said the
2021 for
music
me.
has a big upgrade. Do you
Big
like that
upgrade.
though? Because I've heard like with the other remaster, like for Pixel Remaster of 6, they've redone some music, the opera scene and stuff, and that was a dramatic change, at least to me. Was the one similar then?
Yes. So 6, I mean, with the opera thing, that was big when it came out. So the way they did the 6 opera scene is chill inducing. I got goosebumps multiple times. In fact, just sitting here thinking about it, I'm getting kind of the chills. There are some things that are a lot better. There are some things that I didn't care for as much. The random encounter fight music for Final Fantasy IV, love the classic version of it, but the redone version not so much. Um, but then you go to, like, Damsian Castle or whatever in Final Fantasy IV, and I didn't realize that song slapped so hard. But if you add Gregorian chants to about anything, I will love it.
I'm here
And
for
that
it. Yeah.
is so there's a lot of things with Final Fantasy One that were good, having gone back recently and played through the classics. But with the Pixel remaster, the music is top tier. And it really feels, and I think this is really where I'm going with this, the Final Fantasy One Pixel remaster feels more like there's more cohesion to the rest of the series that it set up to go back and play that, and then because again I didn't play 2, 3, and then 4, and then 5, and then 6. It all feels more like a family as opposed to this kind of outdated thing that set up all these other great things. Imagine if they did a pixel remaster for like Mortal Kombat, but gave it Super Nintendo graphics. It would be, well, no, it did. That's a bad example, but you know what I'm saying. And I'm just go play Pixel One remaster.
Well,
Thank me later.
o- okay, so I was interested in the Pixel remasters, but and I don't want to pee on your parade here, but I got some stuff I gotta say. First off, regarding the Final Fantasy IV battle music,
Mhm.
I don't think I've ever heard a version of that one as good as the original Super Nintendo version.
Yeah.
Moving on, you mentioned the redone Final Fantasy VI opera scene.
Mhm.
I thought that was done really well. I thought it
Oh,
was
yeah.
really cool.
Love it.
And that's where my problem is with all the rest of the Pixel remasters. I feel like this would have been a prime point for Square Enix to really make use of the HD 2D system that they introduced with Octopath. They basically used it for the Opera in 6. I don't understand why they didn't do it with the entire Pixel remaster setup.
Hmm. I don't know.
I
I can't
feel like
speak to that.
it should have been done for Final Fantasy 1 through 6, the whole thing, instead of building a whole new engine to recreate these games. And then they still didn't even completely do everything. Apparently, there were missing tiles in some of the games, at
Really?
least at release. I don't know if they fixed it. I know for sure
Huh.
4 had missing tiles.
I
I
don't
don't know
know.
if others did,
Yeah.
but
By the time I got to it, I had noticed, and I think I know 4 pretty well, but I don't know if they're missing some tiles, they're missing some tiles.
but
So
I don't I'm not disappointed in the idea of the Pixel remasters,
Mhm.
and it probably brought these games around to a state that some people who wouldn't have played the originals felt was playable now. And I'm sure it made Square Enix a boatload of money on the people who were like, "Hey, Final Fantasy 1 again." Sure. You know.
Yeah. And yeah, okay. So, yes, cash grab, absolutely. I don't think anybody's gonna deny that. Um, if you look at some of the other reports that they've done, like to the PlayStation or these various ports for the phone systems, um, they're not always unified. They don't always play the same way, or the framing. There's always things that are just different. I think with the Pixel remaster, putting them all out, kind of having them done for the most part the same way, like I said, it feels very unified. It feels like a really great package to buy. Um, I do think, especially with 4, like for as much as I love 4, that was the one that probably let me down the most. I feel like, man, there's so many other ports like Advance. Take some of the stuff that they added from Advance, whether it's additional summons or dungeons, they should have put that shit in there too. I think that would have been fun. But they just kind of gave us the easy type, and that's okay. For me, really, the music was the only thing that was better in 4, with the exception of the random encounter music. So there we are. And I will say this also: Dancing Mad from Final Fantasy VI is now the Pixel Remaster music is now my alarm clock when I wake up, and I have been hella productive the past few
I'm gonna have
months.
to check that out.
Oh,
But yeah,
it is good. It's great.
I feel like the Pixel remaster was a huge missed opportunity in using the HD 2D engine that they built.
I wish I knew more about it. All I can say is the opera scene was insane, and if they could have done better with the other songs by incorporating that, then yeah, they should have. But what we got for the most part, I gotta say, is massive improvement. Um, so yeah, if you liked one before, hopefully you like this. If you never really got into one, start here, because again, that made me want to go back and play the other versions and the classics. And yeah, whatever it was that I was missing before, that piece of the puzzle's kind of been filled in for me, and I get it now. And I slept on that for way too long.
I think for me, when I first heard about the Final Fantasy One Pixel Remaster, that made me groan was I heard they're redoing the sprites, like the art. And I'm very picky. I hate how there's a remaster where they ignore the pixels entirely and then go for that 2D look, like Snow Brothers, the arcade game, a very pixel game from the 90s or maybe 80s. That got a remaster recently, and they just kind of did a weird 2D art style, like just smooth lines. It looks to me terrible. So when I heard about Final Fantasy One Pixel Master being redoing the artwork, I was kind of worried. But when I'm looking at the video now, I know you guys can't see it, but I'm looking at the sprites, the characters, Black Mage, White Mage, Fighter, they all look how they did in the original Nintendo game, just a little bit touched up, right? More colors, whatnot. They look good. A lot better than I thought, surprisingly. And of course, Final Fantasy One and Nintendo had the black background. Now they've updated it more like the other games in the series with, detailed 2D art in the background of the fight scenes. It looks good. This looks like a nice looking game, really.
And it doesn't look like it was a repolished. I mean, obviously everything was improved and heightened, but it wasn't just a repolish, like you were saying, with smoother lines and things. It still looks and plays like a very classic retro game.
Yeah.
As somebody who grew up playing the NES version of Contra, later going and trying to play the arcade version, I'm like, well, this sucks. give me give me the old crap. Give me the lower version. So yeah, that's where I'm at. And if you've never taken the time to play through Final Fantasy 3, for example, as well, you got to. That's a great game, and the Pixel Remaster did it well. And if you didn't care for how slowly the original Final Fantasy 3 for the NES moved, I get it. I'm with you. This one, that's the other thing. They're all very smooth now. They're less clunky. They fixed the thing with Final Fantasy 1 where if you were set to attack this foe, but he's perished or vanquished the turn before, you're not swinging it, air. So there were
Yeah.
the touch ups and the fixes there, which are good. Yeah, it's just great game.
Yeah,
Great
I think
game.
the only thing that missing from it is I kind of miss the touch of graphics look good, but the modern font kind of doesn't hit with me. I kind of wish there was an option for pixelated fonts, but overall, like it looks like a solid package.
I think I've heard somebody else complain about the fonts or mention the fonts that they could have been done better. That is not something that stood out to me, and I'm aware of people pointing that out, but it still hasn't sunk in, I guess. But yeah.
As I understand it, that was an issue to get it on the iOS store.
Oh, was it really?
Yeah, it was one of the accepted fonts, like, because apparently, uh, the iOS store only allows a handful of fonts to be
Oh,
used in apps, and so they chose one of the fonts and then decided not to stray from it at all.
okay.
So
And that makes sense
One,
because like Google has similar rules for I think they call it Material, I think, but they have like a design philosophy for apps, and there are certain fixed fonts. And Square, when they made this, again, you said GP cash grab, that's Square's MO, and they released this for mobile, and people were begging, I think, for a Steam release for a while. So I can see why they conform to mobile first and other consoles secondary, I guess.
yeah, and I do want to say that's actually what I did. I purchased them all for my phone, and it's done two things because I've gotten kind of used to fast forwarding thanks to the miracle of emulation. but it forced me to kind of go back, read through and in certain ways, it's experiencing the game not for the first time, but in a fresh way. Because again, there have been updates to the scripts and things like that and corrections. But with six, I haven't played six in a very long time. As a few other people I've spoken to about this game, um, without fast forwarding it. So to go back
Right.
and have to read everything and do the old school way of doing it, like absolutely. I don't think I would have enjoyed it as much if I had to sit at my computer. If I can, play this here and there, sitting on the couch or whatever, if I'm in a car ride with somebody else driving, absolutely. That was the way for me to do it. So,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. So GP's Game of the Year 2021 is Final Fantasy 1 Pixel Remaster.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else you want to say on that, or should we move on?
No, I think that covers it for me.
All right. Wulff, you want to go next?
Sure. So I was torn, and ultimately I think I made my decision. I was torn between Astalon Tears of the Earth and Blaster Master 03. Ultimately, I got to go with the Blaster Master. I don't know if my camera's too tiny for people to see or what, but this is my little Sophia Third tank pin.
Yeah, love it.
Nice.
I love me some Blaster Master. I really enjoy the franchise as a whole, 0, 1, 2, and 3. And 3 was a really good send-off for the trilogy. It ultimately meshed really well the lore behind the original Blaster Master for the NES and its original Japanese version, Metafight. So it sort of combined both of these into one property, reimagined, and 3 told an interesting story that ended in a way that I did not expect, but I wasn't disappointed with. Not to mention the pixel art in that game is gorgeous. They use really an amazing color palette, and they spent a lot of time on the details, really making sure that all the sprites are completely readable and pretty.
This was in Creates, right?
Inti Creates, yeah.
Yeah. See, their pixel art, like the retro inspired look, is always on point. I love everything they do, graphic wise. It looks amazing, and this is no exception.
My brother and I were actually recently talking. He had forgotten that they did Mega Man 9 and 10.
Oh, did they really?
They
I
did.
didn't realize that. Okay.
So like they got their start emulating a style.
Yeah.
And with the Blaster Master 0 trilogy, I think they found a way to revisit a style without copy pasting it, which was quite nice. I really like 03. It told a, like I said, it told a really good story. I'm trying not to spoil anything. It had its sad moments, it had its exciting moments, it had its plot twists and surprises that come from the previous games, as well as little throwbacks to the previous games, and it was a good one.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
I'm going to try to draw a parallel, and I want you to tell me if this is apt or wildly off base. Would you say this trilogy is akin to the Die Hard trilogy? One, classic, and a Christmas favorite. Two, kind of fails to capture all of the magic, but still culturally significant and does in fact exist, even if not everybody has been made aware of it. And then three, a masterpiece starring Jeremy Irons. Okay, maybe not Jeremy Irons, but
Kinda, yeah. I do think the first one was better than the third one,
mhm,
but
Oh,
the
really?
third one was
Okay.
still much better than the second one.
yeah.
And they got to fine tune any issues that the first two games had and make the game a little bit more cohesive, seeing as the first game was a big broad map the way the original NES game was, where you just travel between zones, you have to backtrack and all that. The second game was planet hopping. And then the third game, it had a sort of planet hopping aspect, but the planets were what they had you traversing was bigger in scope and size, and a little bit more interconnected to each other. So that and there's plenty of secrets to find.
Okay.
So for this one, so this is a trilogy, and these are sequels to the original NES game, or are they just kind of their own thing?
It is a reimagining of Blaster Master and Metafight as one property, also incorporating ideas from the later Blaster Master entries and the Worlds of Power book. Like it really smashed everything together and they made it something that works.
Wow,
The Worlds
that
of
is a
Power books,
balanced
those were
breakfast.
those books back in the NES days, right? That came out telling stories from those games.
Yes.
They pull from that. That's pretty amazing, actually.
So ultimately, you end up learning, like in the third game, you travel between planet Sophia, which was the planet that Metafight took place on, and Earth, which is the planet that Blaster Master took place on. And you get the main characters, Jason, and oh my gosh, I don't remember the other guy's name, but you end up playing through and encountering both of those characters in Blaster Master 03. Both the protagonists from both Metafight and Blaster Master are in 03.
Oh, okay, cool.
Nice. Yeah, this has always been a game series now. I keep saying this. When the first one came out, I'm like, oh, that looks amazing. I totally want to play it. And then the sequel comes out, I'm like, well, crap, I want to play all of them now. And now there's the third one. I have to play these. I really do. This is one of those indie games that I really want to give a
Highly
shot at.
recommended.
Yeah, the graphic style. I like the original Blaster Master NES, and this captures that gameplay almost perfectly and expands on it, which is great to see. And,
Yes.
and again, Inti Creates did the Castlevania one, Bloodstained or whatever it was. No, Bloodstained, Curse of the Moon, the pixel
Curse of the Moon games.
demake one. Yeah, fantastic. I love this studio, and I love everything they've done. So this is definitely on my bucket list of games I got to play, hopefully this year. How hard is this one? Is it tough?
It has a fight or two that are pretty challenging,
Okay.
but none of these three games are anywhere near as hard as the original Blaster Master for the NES. So, and that's kind of a, I guess, a subjective thing. No. Yeah, subjective thing, because, some people can get through Blaster Master 1 on the NES in minutes. And then for me, whenever I hit level 8, it sucks,
I
Well-
got nowhere in that game. I've always had struggled with the Blaster Master. So
The fact that there are like all sorts of hidden upgrades throughout the series and power-ups and stuff that's more permanent than there was in the original one, as well as save points, inherently makes the game easier. But they are all definitely longer than the original one, which is nice.
okay. Yeah, this is definitely on my
And-
list to play, and it looks fantastic. All right.
They all kind of throw surprises at the player, especially if you're familiar with the original game. They throw surprises at you in ways that you wouldn't expect, and it's different surprises in each game, which I appreciated.
Oh, cool.
Good. Awesome. All right. So Wulff's Game of the Year for 2021 is Blaster Master 03. Did I say that right? Awesome.
Yes.
All right. And then for me, okay, so I guess for me, we were talking earlier before the show, it was kind of hard for me to remember what I played last year. I had to go back and look at my list and what I bought and what I played. But there were a couple games that I did beat last year. And then for me, my game of the year is Metroid Dread for the Nintendo Switch.
Yeah.
So like now, I love Metroid, even the original NES one, which people think is ass these days with no map and no saving and god-awful password entry, right? But for me, I love Metroid Dread. Samus as a character is freaking iconic and is cool, and that 2D gameplay is just really on point. And as much as I love Super Metroid, I really like what Metroid Zero Mission did in terms of evolving the series a little bit and cleaning up controls. Metroid Dread is taking that even further and just bringing 2D platforming into just an evolution. Like, it feels great. All of the moves, the sliding, the melee attack, the jumping, the controls in this game are so tight. And as you play through Metroid Dread, at first it kind of gradually teaches the mechanics of the game, and it feels good, but you never at any point feel like you need to like master everything. until the end of the game, the last couple bosses, the final boss especially, it takes every mechanic in the game, from, you know, the space jumps, multiple jumps in the air, to sliding, to counters, everything, and puts it into one boss fight, and you have to master it so well. But it's not in a way that was frustratingly difficult. And I say that it wasn't frustratingly difficult, even though I spent maybe 3 hours trying to beat the final boss in Metroid Dread. But it was never frustrating, because if you died, it was very easy to pop back into the game and do another attempt on the boss. But just the controls were so on point, so good. Like, it's weird for me to say that the reason this is my game of the year is the controls are good. Like, the controls feel well. Like, they feel like they were well done. That just feels odd to me. But otherwise, the graphics are fantastic. It looks great. For a Nintendo Switch title, I was worried about frame rate. But this is one of those games that runs, I think it runs at 60 frames per second. If not, it looks really good. Like, there's very few instances of slowdown, which sadly for Nintendo Switch games these days, I almost expect it to be slowdown. But Dread doesn't have any of it. And I don't know, it's a fantastic game. Did you guys play this one? I think, Wulff, you might have played Dread all the way through.
I did.
GP, did you
but
play
not
this
until
one?
January.
Okay.
I haven't. I've watched a fair amount of it, enough to be familiar with bits and pieces. But no, I haven't played it yet. But it is on my list.
Yeah.
In fact, the entire fucking series is on my list to get back to soon. But yeah.
Yeah,
I love Metroid.
It's such a great series. One of the things that can be frustrating for folks is that it is a Metroidvania. I mean, it's in the name, right? But where there's backtracking in the past games can be frustrating because you had an entire map to explore. In this one, there's still backtracking, but what they'll do is they'll cleverly lock areas of the map down a bit until you kind of beat the next sequence. So although there's backtracking, you usually know what rough area you need to be in because the game will keep you in that space. So you're not constantly checking every room across the entire map. It's less frustrating because, like, I like Metroidvanias, but certain games that do the backtracking and it becomes a little cryptic and where you need to go, I never had that issue with this game. It's kind of helpful in how it guides you across.
I always thought Prime did a really good job of that. They give you some time to kind of stew and figure out, which to me I think was very logical and sensible, good proper game design. But then after a little while, you'd get that message, you know, incoming message, go check this. But yeah, any Metroidvania game, I think, especially now, with graphics and capabilities being what they are, to do kind of the more classic style of a game, you need to be able to work and focus on logic for the game. And I think it's great that they're seemingly kind of nailing that, you know, for Dread at least.
Yeah. I think the only thing oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I wanted to mention the backtracking. Sometimes they funnel you into forced backtracking, but it's a nice surprise that they end up changing up the layout because of some environmental factor to
Right.
where you end up re-exploring an area, but it feels different because they've changed it a fair amount.
Right.
So,
like the water is frozen, for example, in certain areas when it wasn't before. Yeah.
Or, you know, there's parts where there's lava or there's not, or, you know, there was areas where entire chunks of the zone were changed because of an explosion. You know, this was super cool the way they did that. I loved it.
Look, Mega Man X did it first. X gonna give it to you, and all props to Mega Man X.
Not to that degree.
No. But you know, I got to drop Mega Man whenever I can. Love you, Mega Man.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Like the change to, I think every level got affected by another boss being beaten, right? In X.
You know, I don't know if it's every level, but close. Yeah, most
I didn't
definitely.
realize you did that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. So like Flame Mammoth, you know, if you beat Chill Penguin, then his stage is frozen over.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, and then Spark Mandrill if you. Well, anyway, yeah, go back and play it. I don't want to spoil anything. But yeah.
Yeah,
the few times I've played Mega Man X over the last year, it's just been a train wreck for me. But I'll have to give it another shot.
Yeah, I think water level rises in Sting Chameleon stage if you beat another one first. It's little things like that. They're small touches. They're mostly not noticeable if you're not paying attention, but they're there.
Well, and a lot of times,
cool.
with the Sting Chameleon, that is what allows you to get some of the items that are hidden. But sorry, Mega Man X is not on anybody's list today.
Not this year.
Drop that.
Maybe next year.
Maybe next
year.
Yeah,
but for Dread, one of the things that's also cool for this as well is there's sequence breaking, which is, I'm not really a speed runner, right? I mean, former world record holder for Double Dragon on the Master System, you know, till
Wow.
Brazil took over the
Wow.
leaderboard. But that's
We are
okay.
in the presence of greatness.
Yeah, 24 minutes, baby.
Nice.
But anyway, this game does have sequence breaking in a way, and the game acknowledges that. So in the game, you fight Kraid. Sorry, spoilers. It's been a year. Fantastic boss fight. Huge, massive callbacks to earlier titles. Really great boss fight. But at the time, you don't have the bombs, normally if you play it straight. But you can sequence break and get the bombs and the more full. And if you manage to go to Kraid after you do, you can do a special attack where you go inside Kraid's belly button, it looks like, and explode. Like there's a sequence animations, like the game acknowledges that you have this item and it does a serious damage to Kraid. The fact that that's even included, something that most players will never even try or even realize, because to sequence break in this game is quite challenging. But the game acknowledges that, I think is incredibly cool. Whether it's something they designed and they were rejigging content in areas later, I don't know, or if it's something they planned for. Either way, it's incredibly cool. I love that part of this game. And I've seen a few different sequence breaks that are really interesting.
I would hope they'd plan for that. To go back to Metroid Prime, there were some really amazing sequence breaks. In fact, that was kind of my introduction to speedrunning was Metroid Prime, which later releases of the game had gone back and changed that. In fact, if you want the original version, you've got to go and check certain digits on the inside of the disc to make sure that this has the original stuff. But so they went back and they changed it so you can't do that, and that pissed me off. So to hear that maybe they made the game in such a way that they're acknowledging, okay, you figured this out, go have fun with it and be a little bit OP'd for a minute. I love that. It's what a time to be alive.
Yeah, it's a fantastic game. And story, I mean, it's a Metroid game, so you're not getting a novel, right? No Worlds of Power here. But there is dives into the Metroid lore that was really interesting for what there is. You get to hear Samus speak for the first time in this series, as far as I know. Well, I think maybe speak outside of the Wii game, which nobody talks about anymore.
Other M, yeah.
Yeah, but this game is fantastic. It's such a great game, and it's done by the Mercury Steam, which is a third-party studio, and they're the ones who did Samus Returns in 3DS, which was not a bad game, but wasn't great. But they were also remaking the old Game Boy Metroid 2, which is kind of a love or hate game. But this is them taking that work and expanding on it and making such a fantastic game. My only worry is that it took, 10 years to get this game made? And it only sold 3 million copies. And that's, in today's world, is not nearly enough. So I doubt we're going to see a sequel to this game. I don't think we're going to see another 2D Metroid, maybe ever, right? I think they're going to go the 3D direction for sure going forward.
Well,
and that's kind of sad
if
to me.
Metroid Prime ever happens.
I'm sorry?
I said if Metroid Prime 4 ever happens.
Well, apparently it's happening. Apparently they rebooted development again recently, so they're going to do it. But
is
I mean,
it
it's another
though?
few years.
Is it happening?
Well, Duke Nukem came out after how many years? I'm sure Metroid's coming.
Yeah, in fact, no, I think they're so serious about the Prime 4 release, they went ahead and gave it a subtitle, which is Metroid Prime 4 Ross and Rachel. Okay, is that too old of a joke? I feel it's gonna. Okay, it's fine.
We're a Retro Games podcast. There's no such thing as too old.
Friends made a resurgence with the younger crowd sometime in the last couple years. So.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. JD and Elliot. Just pick a couple. It's fine. Jess and Nick.
For that one, I guess.
Oh, that was Scrubs.
Oh yeah, it doesn't stick in my head for some reason.
Big shout out to my friend Bill Lawrence. Not important, and I'm not name dropping, but I kind of am. Bill Lawrence, the guy who created Scrubs and Spin City and Ted Lasso. I had a Twitter conversation with him once where he publicly referred to me as friend. So I've been dining out on that for a couple of years now. Whenever I talk about, yeah, my friend Bill Lawrence. Anyway, doesn't matter. Sorry about that. Love you, Bill Lawrence. All right.
Yeah. I will say the first time you start Metroid Dread and the title screen says Metroid 4 and it's Dread, acknowledging Metroid 3 was Super Nintendo version of Super Metroid. It just, the whole package hits nostalgia notes, but it's a modern 2D platformer, and the whole package is totally worth playing. I'm just really bummed we're never going to see another one like it. At least not an official Metroid game, unfortunately. But,
Yeah, that's something I think people tend to gloss over from Super Metroid is when you first turn it on, it straight up says Metroid 3 in little unimpressive text. Yeah. So it's easy to miss. As far as sequence breaking goes, I gotta say, I love when you can sequence break games, but It always makes me think back to Wonder Boy 3 Dragon's Trap when I played the remastered version. I accidentally sequence broke because I thought I was supposed to go to an area, completely missed, went somewhere else, and then I was confused as hell as to where to go next.
Hmm.
Ended up going to an area I guess I shouldn't have been able to get to. I don't know. But yeah, it's interesting when games plan for it. I dig that idea
It's new.
because you sent me the video link of Kraid getting blown up from the inside out. That was badass. I gotta say,
Yeah.
that's
Like, it was
that's a
neat enough
cool
where I'm like,
nod
I
to the
wanted to try
speedrunner
and do it
community.
myself. Yeah. All right. All right. So my game of the year.
Also,
Oop, go ahead.
I would like to mention that this game
Shake
stressed
it
me the
down.
hell out.
Oh,
Like
the Emmy
I would
stuff.
literally, yes, I would literally play through segments of it. I'd play it for like a half hour to an hour, and then I would have to stop because my nerves would be shot. There was one night I was playing it with the wife. She was watching me play on the TV, and I was like, "All right, it's enough stress for me. I got to play something else."
Oh, we lost GP.
Uh-oh.
Oh no. Okay, sorry
All
about that.
right.
We're back.
Ooh, yeah, I don't know what happened. Sorry. I want to say this real quick though. Don't give up hope on getting a sequel for Metroid Dread, and here's why. Zack Snyder's Justice League. Anything can happen, and I loved it. And while I can't say that Zack Snyder is my friend the way that like me and Bill Lawrence are friends, uh, it really shows the consumer has quite a bit of input. And I don't want to say power. I think that's stupid. But if you already own a copy, go out and buy another one. I don't know, but give it a voice. Maybe we should start a
It,
hashtag. But it's anything
it's
can
also
happen.
worth mentioning that Nintendo has a lot of confidence in their IPs, even when one particular entry doesn't fare as well as they had hoped.
That is true. Yeah.
So it might be a while before we get another 2D Metroid, another 5-6 years, maybe longer, but we'll get one. It'll happen again. They'll get somebody else who'll be like, I want to do this. And higher ups will be like, you know what? It's been a while. Let's do it. So
Yeah. I
And
mean,
we'll
in a
be
world where
we'll
we're getting a
yeah.
second Breath of the Wild game, you're right. Who knows what could happen in 5 to 10 years. So,
Yeah. But yeah,
all right.
call to action. And I don't mind it. We'll be the 65-year-old guys in the tents outside of whatever game store, the night before release. That'd be great.
All right. So, Metroid Dread is my game of the year. I guess we can quickly go
Good.
through our weird runner ups, and it's won't spend too long on it. So, JP, let's go with your runner up game of the year.
And I'll probably get some slack for this, but Mario Golf, was it called Speed Rush or something like that?
You don't even know the name
which
of the
one?
game, and it's your runner up of the year.
I know Mario Golf, and you can speed golf, and it's kind of light on a lot of things, but the game itself, some of the new things, battle golf, even though it gets kind of stale, is a really cool idea. But speed golf, like if you can mix Mario Kart with Mario Golf, yes, it's fun, and it made me wish, even though it's not the best of the Mario Golf games, it made me wish that other versions, such as Toadstool Tour, had the speed golf option. It was fun, and if you haven't played it,
Here,
it's the best way to play video game golf.
Mario Golf Super Rush. That's the name
Super
of it.
Rush, thank you. I was thinking speed golf, so Speed Rush. I'm sorry. Also, I love Rush. YYZ, everything from moving pictures, Test Rock. Anyway, okay, sorry.
No, I almost bought this game, actually. I was looking at it, and I've heard it got a bunch of free DLC, like new courses and stuff, which is great to see. I was a hair away from picking it up. It's one of those games where if it ever went on sale, I might pick it up to play with my kids.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not really a big sports game fan, but the Mario sports games are usually really accessible in a fun way, and this does look great.
Tennis is another good example. The Mario tennis games usually are really, really fun.
Right.
My biggest complaint about Super Rush is there's not a lot of unlockables, and there's the DLC stuff now. But when you first get it, there's 16 playable characters. They're already available. Once you kind of beat through the adventure mode, which is not as great as I had originally hoped, all the courses are just going to be there waiting for you. And part of the fun of the classic Mario Golf games is unlocking things by it's what they had for Chivos back in the day, I suppose.
Right.
But
Yeah.
anyway, yeah.
Yeah.
So runner up. There you go.
All right. Wulff, what about you? What's your runner up of game of the year?
Like I said, it was because I mentioned it earlier. It was Astalon Tears of the Earth, which is another Metroidvania style game. Um, Heavy on the exploration, heavy on the 8-bit style. I really love this game. I love the tongue-in-cheek references to Super Mario Brothers and Castlevania. Um, it it did a lot that I really dug on, and it was challenging as hell. It felt like an NES game, which was great.
This has like some influences from Castlevania 3 or something, right?
Yeah, so you have 3 characters that you can play as out of the gate. There's 2 more that you unlock. I guess I can kind of go in. I could spoil them a little bit. One of them is basically an analog for Trevor Belmont,
Okay.
and the other one that you unlock is an analog for Toad from Mario 2 specifically.
Really?
Yeah, he
Castlevania and Mario 2
he just
together
pops
again.
up with random items
Yeah.
and tosses them at enemies. That's his thing.
And the sexual tension is palpable between these two.
Who's the
But
third
it- I
character?
mean,
Is
it
he
has-
he's from Ninja Gaiden? Is that what it is
No,
now?
no. Those are the 2 secret characters. Otherwise, there's 3 characters you start as. There's the warrior, the mage, and the ranger. I don't
so
remember
it's
their
5
names
characters.
offhand. There's 5 characters, plus there's actually 2 more characters you can play the game as that I'm aware of after you beat the game and accomplish
really?
certain things.
Oh.
So it unlocks 2 other modes entirely, like one that's basically a beat it without dying mode, and one that changes the mechanics up pretty drastically.
No, that's pretty interesting. I like when games do that. Like Bloodstain does quite a bit of that now, and I'm all in for it. Right? Anything that if it's a game I love anyway, adding in extra characters for future game clears is just fantastic. I love that stuff.
Yeah, it's really cool the way they handle everything. It's a really well developed game. I'm trying to remember who developed it. It was such a good one. I'm sad
Is
that
it a
I'm
one-person operation? I think.
I don't recall. I don't think so, but maybe Labs Works. That's what it was. Canadian
trying to
video
think.
game by Labs Works. So there you go. It's Canadian.
Yeah, Canadian content that will appease the local regulatory body of Canada as we relaunch Press B in Canada. We have to have 1/3 of our content Canadian, of course. So start eating poutine now. All right. Okay. So I guess my runner-up game. So this game actually I was not quite sure it qualified for last year, but I went back and looked, and it is, and that is Cyber Shadow. Speaking of one-man operations, Cyber Shadow. At the time I played it, I think we did an episode on it, Wulff, me and you, and we did mention that it definitely feels like Ninja Gaiden influence, and of course that's there. But it's not just that. It's having played some other NES games recently, like Shatterhand and Power Blade and whatnot. They almost feel like more of an influence on Ninja Gaiden in some ways with Cyber Shadow. But for those who have not seen it, it was on Game Pass for quite a while. I think it's on Switch nowadays too. But it's a ninja-based run and slash Ninja Gaiden-like game. Incredibly challenging, but it has a checkpoint system that's very interesting, and this is why I like it so much, I think. Challenging encounters or challenging sequences of a scene or a level or like a street. But with the checkpoints, there's unlockable power-ups, and you can spend the in-game currency to unlock power-ups at a checkpoint. You don't have to, and sometimes you don't want to because you want to save that currency for later on for future checkpoints. But if you really need it, you can unlock a power-up at a checkpoint, and it makes that sequence easier. I love that. There are certain bosses which I was struggling with, but at the checkpoint, if I want to, I can unlock a weapon power-up or the drone that follows you around and heals you, stuff like that. You can unlock it to make that easier if you want to. Incredibly fantastic. And it's one of those games where you start out with no powers, just slashing the sword, but you slowly build up powers as you play the game. Really well done, really fantastic. The story was decent. You're trying to you're a cybernetic ninja trying to find out who's attacking your ninja clan and killing everybody. Really fun bosses, really great graphic design. Just the challenging gameplay. I know I compared this with The Messenger in the past. Both Ninja games, both are fantastic. But this one was more gameplay focused and challenging, a lot harder. But when I beat this game, and it took me about 14 hours to get through, but when I beat it, it was one of the most satisfying game clears I've had in years. Right? Challenging but doable for me, and that's why I think it was my game of the year or my runner-up for last year of game of the year. because it was so satisfying to actually put this one to bed and finish it. And it was just great. So I think, Wulff, you played this one. GP, I don't think you ever ended up playing this one yourself. No,
I don't know this one.
I don't know if it's still on Game Pass for those who have Microsoft Game Pass. If not, they do a $1 trial frequently, and check it out if it's there. Totally worth playing. And this is one of those games where without Game Pass, I don't think I ever would have bought it. I never would have paid 25 bucks Canadian to buy this game. But having a chance to play it on Game Pass, part of that sub, I'm so surprised at the quality of this game and how good it actually is. And then now this Mechanical Head Studios did this. It's the one guy who did it. I think his name is Mika Skull. I'm now actually interested to see what he does next. I really am looking forward to his future games, just with the amount of quality and work he put into this game. And it's so good. Cyber Shadow is fantastic. The only complaint I have about this game, and we joked about it before, was that there's no ducking, unlike, Ninja Gaiden. So there's no cyber knees, unfortunately.
No cyber knees.
No cyber knees. But there's wall jumping and flying around the screen and just all kinds of weapons. It's just a really sweet game. All right.
I love it.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun with that game. A little bit of frustration, a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Also, I'd like to mention it's a little unusual that Jake is the one who picked the modern game.
Well, usually I pick at least one retro game.
Instead of Tetris or Double Dragon.
Which are both fantastic games.
Metroid game.
Cool spot.
Which is a fantastic platforming game, GP. We had an episode on this before.
Oh, yeah, it's an entire thing.
I mean, my games were new games, but they're very retro styled and inspired. So,
well, I mean, Cyber Shadow is retro inspired, and Metroid Dread, I mean, despite the visuals, is absolutely classic 2D classic Metroid gameplay.
It felt a lot like what was that game? Shadow Complex.
Yes, yeah.
Shadow Complex was what I wanted from a Metroid game, and then it took like 12 years or longer for Nintendo to finally do that with Metroid. But yeah, it was...
Well, Nintendo never does things what people want. They always drop a game like this when you least expect it. Like Metroid Dread has been rumored for like years, and I think it stopped and started developing again a few times. So like the fact that it even came out is mind-blowing to me. So
all the more reason to be hopeful about Prime 4.
It's coming.
It's been, yeah.
They've already said it. They showed the logo. They wouldn't show the logo if it wasn't coming out, GP.
And they've confirmed, and this is recently, I don't even know if this is broken in Canada yet, but the news is out that Metroid Prime 4 will likely debut ahead of Metroid Prime 5. So we'll see. We'll see how accurate that is.
We'll see.
I mean, Nintendo's done it before where they announced a game coming out before they even released its sequel or its prequel. They did that with Mario World. They announced Super Mario Brothers 4 was already in development when Mario 3 wasn't even out yet.
That's true. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So
that's just what a way to screw your audience. Yeah, go buy our new Mario Bros. 3, but oh, by the way, we got a better one coming out in a couple months.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we should wrap it up. All right.
Yep.
So again, we are Press B to cancel, and we are going to be resume recording. I think our next first official episode together is going to be on May 20th. We're going to do that with all 5 of us. So GP, Wulff, myself, Chard, and Sinistar. Really looking forward to that. And then after that, we're going to probably keep it to 2 to 4 people at most and just rotate topics. So it's nice to have some new, fresh input. Sinistar, I know, for example, has a lot of... he didn't have consoles when he was growing up. He had a lot of retro computers. He has a lot of takes from there. I know we did an episode of the past with him on adventure games, which was a lot of fun. He's a Mr. Enthusiast. I'm looking forward to a lot of his takes on things. Chart, of course, it did a year of Final Fantasy. He's big on the JRPGs. I know as you guys are. So he's bringing a lot to the table with that. I am personally looking forward to his 5-part miniseries on why Final Fantasy VIII is the greatest game of his of all time. And I know he's looking forward to doing that for us. It should be fantastic.
Just a test to see if he's listening.
There's a lie. There's no way he's going to keep it to 5 parts.
20-part series.
That's
But,
these guys are going to bring a lot, and I'm excited about it. So,
Mhm.
but I don't want to overshadow or understate, I should say, my appreciation for you two and my excitement for being back doing this with you guys. So, yeah, it's been a long number of months, but I'm glad we're here.
Yeah.
Yeah, you might say we took the back streets to get here, bringing it back around.
All right. Yeah.
See, we still got it, GP. For those watching the YouTube video of Press B, I apologize for the technical issues we had this end of this episode. And also the name tags apparently are wrong after we restarted. So, of course, in the top right, we do have GP. And the bottom, we have Wulff. But GP, you want to tell folks where they can find you?
What, you mean like my address? Hell no.
Well,
But
no.
no, I'm still on Twitter as the Retro Therapy. And then I will be making a return to Twitch as the Retro Therapy, hopefully in the upcoming summer months as things wind down for me professionally. So,
Okay. And Wulff, where can folks find you?
Usually Twitch and Twitter. I'm thinking of starting a TikTok, but I don't know the account name for that because somebody else took my werewolf name and is selling jewelry with it.
What? With the spelling and everything?
WAREWULFF?
Yes.
Did you tell them documented?
WAREWULFF. Google it, tell it you meant it. You'll find me unless you're looking at TikTok, and then you'll find some chick I have no idea who she is.
Is the jewelry good? Like that's the question now.
I think it's handmade. I have no idea. All I know is when I last looked at it, she had 3 posts about homemade jewelry.
I'll look into it. I'll let you know.
So I'll have to go back and see if that account still exists and if it's active and whatnot. I don't think I could claim it regardless. But
all right. And I'm Sick Jake. You can find me mostly on Twitter, sometimes on Twitch. I recently streamed during Easter. My wife and I were stuffing Easter eggs. Sorry to ruin the illusion for kids listening. And I also have a couple things up on YouTube. I'm not going to give the URL because it's not a vanity URL because I don't have that many subscribers. But I recently did a review of the VS Fighter, which is a arcade stick with all keycaps and keyboard controls. It's amazing. So feel free to check that out. And I also start TikTok, as it's the style at the time. So you can check me out there as well. I do post occasionally. And otherwise, we are Press B to Cancel. We are an audio podcast. You can find us on Google and Apple Podcasts, as well as Amazon Music. Some people listen to us there, which is fantastic. And as well, we are doing videos on YouTube. We are actually planning on streaming our episodes going forward live on Fridays, and then releasing the audio hopefully on the Monday after. We're still working some of the details out. But yeah, if you enjoy Press B in the past and you're looking forward to doing stuff with us in the future, listening in the future, drop us a like, let us know. The listener and viewer feedback is the world to us, and that's what keeps us going. So we're looking forward to putting out more episodes again. All right. Thank you, everybody.
We're back. A dinosaur story.